Hi, I'm Will Wagstaff and I'm one of the expedition team on board, specialising in birds, but talking about all sorts, but definitely talking about birds. Birding is just one of those things that's just caught my imagination. As I say, from a child I've been sort of looking out, and everywhere I go I'm looking. The challenge of identifying, seeing what's in a particular area, knowing what could be there and trying to find that, and then finding a few other things on the way. It's the fact that it's always new, always changing. You walk or run or drive the same route every day and you pretty much see something different. Today we've been on the Sbnpursuit Islands, a little group of islands long enough way offshore so that there's no ground predators, and it's been a brilliant place for seabirds. Apparently 1% of the world population of brown boobies breeding there, but a lot of other seabirds. So these little islands are just magical for bird life. The lack of predators, the fact that they're safe, they're out in the middle of nowhere, so they've got somewhere to come and sit and rest. And a lot of the more oceanic, the pelagic seabirds would dearly love to be away from land the whole time, but they do need to come in to breed. So these little offshore islands are absolutely brilliant for them. So wherever the seabirds are breeding, you're going to get birds coming to take advantage of that. Also other seabirds, particularly in the case of the frigate birds. Today it's been lesser frigate birds, and they've been living up to their name of pirates. The posh word for it is kleptoparasitism, but mugging under another name, and they're very good at taking other birds' food. So they chase them, hassle them. They drop the fish they've just caught. That's the lunch for the frigates. So brown boobies are one of the sort of iconic tropical seabirds, if you like. They occur worldwide, slight variations, but pretty much the same species, whether you're seeing it in the Caribbean or whether you're seeing it out here on the edge of Australia. And they are very much a bird that specialises in plunging in from great heights, so they're very well adapted for diving in from great heights, catching fish in the sea. That streamlined bill, the fact that the whole body goes into line when they dive into the sea, whether it's from height or whether it's chasing the flying fish off the bow here of the Sbnpursuit. So Sbnpursuit's a real haven for wildlife, because not only have you got all those seabirds, nationally important colony of seabirds, but also you've got other creatures there as well, whether it's a croc floating around the edge. And also, of course, there were loads of turtles. It was great just looking over the side and seeing them swimming away underwater, or the little heads bobbing up, having a look, seeing what's going on. So yeah, it's a really good wildlife haven. So these small seabird islands, lucky enough we've been able to visit Lasapede today, they are vitally important for seabirds because they don't like nesting elsewhere. They can't nest on the mainland islands very well because of ground predators, competition, etc. So they're vitally important. So there are many around the world that are under threat from a variety of reasons, whether it's disturbance or sea level rising, pollution. All of these factors come into play, and food availability. Slight changes in temperature, food goes different places. You've got to be in the right place to breed to get your food. So somewhere like Lasapede, where the bird population seemed to be doing really well, we saw young birds of young boobies, fluffy looking youngsters right up through to flying young. So these are vitally important areas for our seabirds of the world, and it's therefore very important that everybody looks to protect them and promotes how good they are. It's all very well having them tucked away in a little island somewhere, but it's great to be able to say, look, this vital important island is here and it's thriving.
My name is Emily Fosbury. I'm a marine biologist on board the Sbnpursuit. Today we visited Montgomery Reef, traditionally known as Yaujab. When we first arrived at Yaujab, it was actually still underwater, so that is what Montgomery Reef is at its core. It is an intertidal reef that reveals itself magically at low tide. The first thing that we really started to see when it started to rise out of the water was a few ripples on the surface either side of us. And then as we kept looking around, we saw a few birds start to come in and perch seemingly in the middle of the ocean. Eventually, the longer we waited, it started to rise up and we felt this incredible rush of water come towards us, and the reef started to come up and reveal itself. The reason that Montgomery Reef reveals itself like this at low tide is because of the massive tidal range we see in the Kimberley. At Montgomery Reef itself, it's almost a 10-metre tidal range, which means that when we have a big spring tide and it's a big high tide, we have about 5 metres of water over the reef. But at low tide, the tidal range is so big that the whole of Montgomery Reef is able to come up almost 4.5 to 5 metres up and out of the water. It means that we see lots of really interesting marine life on Montgomery Reef, marine life that's having to deal with this really unique environment. So when the reef comes up and reveals itself, it means that lots of different species are able to take advantage of that. In particular, our shorebirds, they often come from the mainland out onto Montgomery Reef, and you can see them spending a lot of time walking over the reef, picking up all of those morsels of food that just a few hours earlier were underwater. By the end of the day, the tide had dropped so low that we had about 3 metres of reef on either side of us going up the channel. It was really visually spectacular. And we also were able to see that the waterfalls that Montgomery Reef produces, we really got the idea that there's so much water trapped by Montgomery Reef that the waterfalls never stop running until the tide rises up once more and swallows it again.
A fiery sky signals a new day in Garanga Dam. Over millions and millions of years of erosion and tectonic movement, the area has been twisted into this unique landscape. We glide over the water in awe of the ancient world around us. Here, the landscape is entwined with the movement of water. From the top of the mangrove mountains, the area falls into the diverse mangroves. Whose banks are lined with the wriggly roots and shoots springing up from the sediment. This ancient paradise is home to many critters finding their niche. The waters continue to move today with the lure of lunar forces. They take their breath in as the water floods into the winding creeks. But the breath out is a sigh of relief as it rushes out of the lungs of Garanga Dam.
G'day, my name's Mick Davidson. I'm a naturalist working on Seabourn. I just love the exploring of them, going to places that I've never been before, and very few people get to go there. So to be able to go off and explore is something that I'll take with me to my grave. It's just so exciting. I think about it constantly when I get back, about what a great day it's been. Hunter River is real expedition stuff. You never know what's around the corner. The stone cliffs, they're red against the green trees, and the mangroves, an exceptional place. It just blows me away. You come around the corner and you look at the mud flats, and there doesn't seem to be much there, but on closer inspection you see a little bit of movement, and then you figure, hang on, there's heaps of things here. The crocodiles, they are prehistoric. They're just looking at you as though they are sizing you up. Then they just swim away, disappear, and appear. They really impress me, those animals. As we travel through the mangroves, you see a flash of colour, and you look over and all of a sudden there's this beautiful tiny bird there. It's just exciting to find them, you know? And it's hard to find them, and they move off. The great thing about being in the Zodiac in the mangroves, with the low tide flooding into a high tide, you can pick your way through to the very far reaches of these little tributaries, and then you turn around and it's a whole different story coming out. The tide has increased by metres and all the mangroves are covered. An hour or two earlier you were in between them, and now you're virtually above them coming out.
Hi, I'm Roderick, part of the Seabourn Expedition team here on Pursuit, and today we're going to be going to Vanissart Bay. What we're looking at is the remains of a C-53 Skytrooper aircraft that got terribly lost in the very beginning of World War II. It was February 1942, about the same time as Darwin was being bombed. Unfortunately, due to a navigation error, they had found themselves hundreds of miles off course. The crew were able to be rescued, lasting and a poignant reminder of the heady days of World War II. But today, 80 years later, the conflict continues. But here on the mudflats, it's between rival fiddler crabs who are duking and jousting it out for dominance of their own murky domain. The beautiful, serene savanna woodlands around the wreck also accommodates a wonderful array of bird life. We spent some time this morning enjoying the company of these feathered friends.
My name is Patrick Demos and I am your expedition leader here on Sbnpursuit, exploring the remote Kimberley coast of Australia. What fascinates me most about the Kimberley coast is the whole feeling that I get when I visit this remote part of the world. The vastness and the remoteness of the place, it makes me feel I'm sitting in the middle of nowhere. It's the unspoiled nature that seems untouched by humankind. The wildlife, the birds, crocodiles. And if you combine this with all the art galleries, the Wandijina art, the Gion art, from a time that I can't imagine to live in, you combine this with its ancient creatures who set the parameters for us. Feels like we're traveling thousands of years back in time. And this feeling of insignificance is what I love about the Kimberley coast. That's why I love coming back here again and again. Kimberley Coast is one of my favorite parts of the world, and it was an absolute pleasure to share this area, this remote Kimberley Coast with you here on Sbnpursuit.